Hi everyone! If you love cookie butter and donuts, this recipe is your dream come true. These Biscoff donuts are absolutely delicious. They're super soft, baked, not fried, and topped with the most addictive cookie butter glaze. Hi, I'm Anjali Shah. I'm a board-certified health coach, nutritionist, and recipe developer. And today I'm going to show you how to make these delicious but secretly lightened up Lotus Biscoff donuts. They're baked, ready in 30 minutes, and taste just like the Krispy Kreme version, only healthier and homemade. So let's get into it. These are the ingredients that you need. You need a cup of all-purpose flour, a third of a cup of brown sugar, half a teaspoon of baking powder, quarter teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 egg, a quarter cup of Lotus Biscoff spread, 1/3 of a cup of milk, 1 teaspoon of lemon juice, 2 tablespoons of olive oil or melted butter, and half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then for the glaze, you're going to need a quarter cup of Biscoff spread, a quarter cup of powdered sugar, 2 to 3 tablespoons of milk, and then some crushed Lotus cookies for topping. So how to make this? First, preheat your oven to 350 degrees. In a large bowl, you want to sift together the flour, the brown sugar, the baking powder, the baking soda, and the cinnamon. In another bowl, you want to whisk together 1 egg, a quarter cup of the Biscoff spread, a third of a cup of milk, a teaspoon of lemon juice, 2 tablespoons of oil or butter, and half a teaspoon of vanilla. Then pour the wet ingredients into the dry and mix until just combined. Don't overmix because you want that really tender cake-like donut texture. I like to use a piping bag to fill the donut pan, but you can also use a Ziploc bag with the corner snipped off. Just spray your donut tray with a little bit of oil and then pipe the batter in about 3/4 full. Then just pop them into the oven for about 9 to 10 minutes. You'll know they're ready when they kind of spring back gently to the touch and a toothpick inserted in comes out clean. Once you take them out of the oven, make sure to let them cool in the pan for just a few minutes before transferring to the wire rack. And then while they're cooling, you can make your glaze. I recommend melting the Biscoff spread in the microwave and then combining with the rest of the ingredients and whisking until smooth. Once the donuts are fully cool, dip them into that amazing glaze. Let the excess drip off, and then just finish with a sprinkle of crushed Lotus cookies. These donuts are so easy to make, but I do have a few tips to help you make sure that they turn out perfectly every time. The first is don't overmix. For the best donuts and the best texture, just make sure that you just mix the batter until it's just combined and there are no lumps. If you continue mixing, the donuts might get a little bit tough and chewy. As I mentioned, you can use a Ziploc bag for piping if you don't have a piping bag. To make sure the donuts don't stick to the tray, I recommend lightly spraying your tray with olive oil cooking spray or avocado oil cooking spray. If your donuts are not done at the 9-minute mark, just let them cook for another minute or two, but keep checking them because you don't want to overbake them either. These donuts are a little delicate when they're first cooked, so you definitely want to make sure that you let them cool in the trays before you remove them. As they sit in the trays and cool, they will become a little firmer. And then once they're a little firmer, you can move them to that wire rack to finish cooling. Also, I can't stress this enough, but your donuts have to be completely cool before you glaze them. Otherwise, the glaze is just going to melt right off the donuts and it'll be super messy. In terms of the glaze consistency, I recommend starting with less milk and adding more as needed so you get the exact consistency that you want. Also, for substitutes, if you want to make these gluten-free, you can try this with Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1 gluten-free baking flour. And if you want to make these dairy-free, you can use unsweetened almond milk instead of the regular milk. I don't recommend swapping out the egg and making these vegan. You can, but the texture of the donuts will change considerably. Also, if you want to reduce the sugar slightly, you can reduce the amount of sugar in the donuts themselves, or you can just omit the glaze, which will reduce the sugar overall. In terms of storage, I recommend storing these donuts at room temperature for about 2 to 3 days in an airtight container. You can also freeze the donuts, but you can only freeze them when they are unglazed. So if you plan to freeze them, bake them, and once they're cooled, transfer them to a freezer-safe container or a freezer-safe bag, and make sure to separate the donuts with parchment paper so that they don't stick together, and then you can freeze them. When you're ready to use them, I recommend thawing them in the fridge overnight and then glazing them right before you're ready to eat. I love serving these with just coffee or tea. They're such a delicious treat. But if you're really into Biscoff, I also have a recipe for a Biscoff latte that these go amazing with, and I've linked that recipe in the description below. I've also linked the detailed recipe for this recipe in the description below, which has a few more tips and just has the recipe written out in case you want to print it out or save it for later. If you love easy recipes like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another recipe. And if you've tried this recipe or have any questions, make sure to leave a comment below because I respond to every single question I get.